everybody, welcome to GeekStorm. I'm Sean Hilton, owner of Comics Cube, founder of the Kokomo Con, the guy who does the Excelsior Scholarship Fund, which will be coming up shortly, eater of food, lover of puppies, and the guy that's going to help sort out some cool geeky stuff for you today. Today I am joined by my good friend, Michael Frederick Dukes.
You almost said Alan Harrison, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
So ingrained. Mike's usually our producer, creator, director, and behind-the-scenes guy, but today we've got an intern. It's all going to be fine. You're going to love it. On today's episode, we're going to discuss many things, including Jon Favreau becoming involved in the Star Wars universe, Shazam's brand new costume, Kevin Smith, Stan Lee possibly going to pop up. Maybe we're going to talk a little bit about some upcoming dates and releases for some Netflix programming, considering all of your Marvel stuff. These are just a few hints that we're going to drop. But before we get going, don't forget, when you're in the middle of downtown Kokomo, visit the heart of Geek Street, which includes such establishments as Comics Cubed, a purveyor of fine, new, old, vintage, used, whatever you want to call it, comic books, graphic novels, and other geeky sundries. 2 to 3 doors down right from us is the finest toy store in all of the land. That's Kokomo Toys and Collectibles, run by the beautiful Miss Amber and the Studley Todd. There's a Hilo and a Diego sometimes involved as well, 2 children. You know what? If you're gonna buy toys, you should be buying it from a local person who's independently owned and operated. When you buy toys from Kokomo Toys, you're helping put some dog food in their bowl and their kids through college. So check it out. And then just 2 doors down from them, you can check out a record store. They sell pretzels.
Not American Dream Hi-Fi, just a record store.
American Dream Hi-Fi, run by my good friend Mike Wilson. Check it out. While you're in the middle of Kokomo, it is always worth the trip down here to the beautiful visages of downtown Kokomo and Geek Street.
That was a very eloquent intro.
Well, I'm doing the taxes, so it's time for some write-offs. So I got to figure out all the crap that it takes to make this show, and so I'm like, make sure that we get a really good plug. I mean, we plug it every time, but time for a good one. So, early last week, Kevin Smith, during the middle of a 2-part segment he was working on, he did one show. He goes out, he does his Q&As, his talks, his stories. People love it. He's beloved. Director behind such fine things as Chasing Amy, one of my all-time favorites.
Mallrats, Clerks.
Very, very cool director. He helped bring part of geeky culture into the norm and has been a mainstay for many, many years. But during the stint, had a massive heart attack. Very well could have killed him. If he'd gone on to do the second part of the show, or the second show for the day.
The doctor said it would have killed him.
It's very much believed that, he wouldn't be with us anymore.
What was it, the Widowmaker, that's what they call it?
Yeah, the LED, which isn't actually a light or something, or LDE, some particular thing in your heart that if it gets clogged, you're a goner. And so he got there just in time. They did the operation on the spot. He's pulled through and will likely make a heavy recovery. But we should see some lifestyle changes, I would think.
He's already, like the next day, he's like, enjoying my vegetarian diet now. I guess his daughter was already a vegetarian, had been bugging him, and now, I mean, he'd already done some lifestyle change. He'd lost a lot of weight. Yeah. But now I wouldn't be surprised if he goes full vegan and then also probably get an exercise routine in there.
Well, good for him. Lately, because of some of his tweets coming out, though, it has also come to the forefront that Stan Lee, the father of the current modern-day Marvel Comics movement, has also become incredibly ill. Now, Stanley Lieber, creator of the Fantastic Four, co-creator of the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Incredible Hulk, X-Men, the Avengers, everybody pretty much but Captain America. He's 95 years old, so he's not a spring chicken. His wife died last year, and he survived her. But now he has been fighting pneumonia, and it seems like he's been fighting pneumonia for a long time.
Off and on, yeah.
So, just put out some happy, good energy into the world. If you're into that, if you're into prayers, send some prayers Stan Lee's way. I'd really like him to be with us for a little bit longer.
And I was thinking about this. I mean, he's still doing con appearances, not now, currently, but
he's canceled quite a few.
We both know
he's canceled quite a few.
The curse that is con cred.
Oh.
I would imagine a 95-year-old individual, your immune system's not going to be that great to begin with. conventions. Going to conventions might not be a great idea.
Think of how many hands and people he hugs because he does signings. Part of his thing is like he goes to the con and he signs stuff, but now he charges. And I think a meet and greet with Stan Lee is like $150 or something like that. It is not a throwaway fare, and you've got 10,000 people lining up to do it. So Stan's not hurting for money in any stretch, but still, as you know, and you've said, yeah, from just me running games over a weekend, I usually have to go on a vitamin regime and a mental regime and get ready. And then afterwards, I usually take 2 or 3 days after a con off to make sure that I've got time to build up. One of the sickest I've ever been was after a Gen Con where I ran, I think, 34 hours of games. And I came back with like 101 fever and was just messed up.
I know one year, I mean, I generally do not get sick throughout the year. And then one year at Gen Con, I was feeling fine. We go in, I pick up my bag, and then it hit me. Just, oh God. I had to give my bag to my friends, like, I've got to go to the bathroom. And yeah, I went and bought one thing and had to leave.
Done. Hopefully it was in Indy when that happened, not like Wisconsin.
No, it was Indy. It was Indy.
Whew, it would have been rough. Also on the Marvel front, and this is one of the biggest things I think that we're going to talk about this week. It's an interesting thing because it's a multi-layered story that we're going to discuss. Jon Favreau, the famous director of such hits as Swingers, the live-action Jungle Book, has starred in Iron Man 1 and 2 as Happy.
Also directed Iron Man.
Well, and that's the bigger thing is this is the man who directed Iron Man 1 and 2. Now, RDJ, Robert Downey Jr., Downey.
You can call him that because, you're good buds.
Yeah. And Feige, Paul Feige, the producer of the overall thing, they seem to get all the love for the Marvel Universe, and rightfully so that they get a lion's share of it.
But still, think of all the Marvel movies that we have in the past decade, and it all started
those two.
If
that Iron Man 1 didn't go over, if that didn't work, if that doesn't hold true, doesn't make money, doesn't look good, it stops right there.
And if I'm not mistaken, the studio had to be convinced by Favreau to hire Downey Jr. Because at the time, his star
was high risk.
Yeah.
His star was done. It wasn't like it was tarnished. It was, buried. Somebody had to go get a shovel and resurrect this guy because of the drugs and the alcohol, which he's beat. I mean, he seems to be on track. He's doing great. But those two movies, Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, has led to 10 years of Marvel movies, 18 different films, I believe, an offshoot television series, billion-dollar franchises, more money, I would imagine, than Marvel made from 1960. Well, they actually started in the 40s, but we'll say with Stan Lee's tenure in like 63, up through when it started 10 years ago in 2008. I believe that those movies in just those 10 years have made more money, actual profit, than all of the years that all the comic books lined up combined have made.
I haven't checked the numbers, but Black Panther was nearing 1 billion worldwide.
Yeah. Holy cow.
And that's just the first of 3 Marvel movies this year, not counting also the Marvel Netflix shows coming out this year.
Reason I wanted to go so far into what Favreau has done and why I think he's such a big element and such an important piece is it was just announced that Jon Favreau will now be the producer and I believe show lead.
He'll be the writer of the entire series.
For a live-action Star Wars television series, which will debut and show on
it's on Disney's.
Is it Disney's direct
streaming
channel?
Yeah.
So Disney's version of Netflix, CBS's version of their thing. One of those, you're going to have to pay a monthly subscription, and you're going to get content that's going to be related to Disney. We already know that Disney is yanking all of the material from Netflix, except for possibly the live action shows they've done. That's up in the air.
Those are staying, but any further ones will be done on Disney.
The contract that they had for the Star Wars movies and the Marvel movies, which if you've noticed, the Marvel, like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was already on Netflix. They get all these very quickly. All that will be terminated and going over, but Favreau got the job. Favreau, again, to beat this dead horse, has got the chops. He's proven it by creating one of the most successful geek franchises ever. Abrams gets a lot of love in the world, but quite frankly, man, I'll take the money that came out of those Marvel projects over what Abrams brings to the table.
Favreau's a Star Wars fan too. I mean, he's
oh yeah,
he's admitted it, and then also, I mean, he's done He was the voice of one of the Mandalorians on Clone Wars. Yeah.
So we got all that going. So he's announced, and then
Twitter hit.
Twitter hellfire. It's just like a strike from orbit. You know, whatever wiped out the dinosaurs went crazy. So we're in this period of diversification. Everybody wants diversity, and the Black Panther movie has clearly shown that it can be very successful and lucrative. But it wasn't like Kruger. Who's the director? Coogler. I'm horrible with names.
Ryan Coogler.
It wasn't like he was just given Black Panther, like, oh, well, here you go, sir. No, he did Creed. Creed kicked ass. Creed was a great film. And so all of a sudden, Favreau's announced, and there is eruption all over Twitter about another white man gets a shot while nobody else does. Now, I'm upset a little bit about this because this isn't a white guy got a shot. This is Jon Favreau, he's
got a proven track record.
Whose track record is money. He's money. And if you don't get it, then you don't get it.
He doesn't even know it.
Yeah, he doesn't even know he's money. He's so money. So money. And it's like, all right, I'm all for the diversification. I get that people aren't going to get these opportunities until they happen, but I don't think Favreau just walked off the street one day and was given whatever. If you saw Swingers, that was a fairly low budget movie. When you look at a Kevin Smith project, this is a project where a guy made it with his own credit cards, went into debt to try and make this happen. I'm not saying that they were better, stronger, or whatever. I'm just saying that I'm not giving anybody, regardless of your body parts, your where on the map of Waldo and San Diego you came from. It doesn't matter. None of that matters to me. Well, only thing that matters to me is show me the money. And Favreau on a Star Wars project, I believe, is even a stronger candidate than J.J. Abrams is.
I think that's one of the arguments I've seen, though, was it's Star Wars. You know it's going to make money, so you can afford to take a lesser-known individual and put them at the helm and see what happens.
That's an interesting idea. Let's talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is a Marvel project, which everyone said, well, it'll make money no matter what. Well, it's coming up on its 100th episode, and I got to say, I think the vast majority of us are still scratching our heads going, how did it get out of season 1? If it wasn't for the fact that I think Disney wants this on the air, this is a product that it's too big to fail. But yet, it has failed on like all levels. It's just not interesting. And I know if we had more than 3 people watching, we'd probably get some hate for this, but honestly, I haven't watched it since, 2.5 seasons ago or whatever.
Yeah, I think season 2 or 3 is when I stopped.
It just wasn't a good show. And they're keeping it going, but it didn't matter who you put on that. A bad show's a bad show. So I don't believe that just because it's Star Wars. Look at the hate that the latest Star Wars movie is getting.
I was going to say, the divisiveness on the latest Star Wars movie,
it kind of proves the point. Now, yes, it's still making money, and you can say, well, it's Star Wars, but there's only so many chinks in the armor you can take. If Solo comes out and doesn't do well, then that's a second hit that this Goliath is taking. And then all of a sudden, Disney's got to be looking and going, well, we paid a lot for Marvel. We paid a lot for Star Wars. Marvel's paying off a little bit more right now.
Well, even still, the juggernaut that Marvel is, look at the Inhumans.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was bad.
How many episodes did it get in before they went, you're right?
I think it was 1.
That's what I thought.
I mean, that's the rumor, is the stuff came back before it even aired saying they weren't even going to go further. But I mean, that was just a dog. It was just so bad. So I don't know. So that's what's going on in the world. And with this whole Favreau situation, that's my opinion, is that he's got the chops to do it. Let's let the man do it. And then let's build up other, like as I said, Ryan Coogler, get ready for Black Panther 2 and another $1 billion. There's people out there that can pull this stuff off.
I see this argument a lot, not just in movies, also in the role-playing game industry.
Okay.
Specifically, the Conan property.
Okay.
They brought in his experts, Robert E. Howard experts.
Okay.
Which, well, what do you think they are?
All white men.
All white men. And one of the females that was a writer pulled out because of that. He's like, look, you're not going to hire people of color and women to write this. At a certain point, though, whether it's the movie, no matter what the media is, are you going to go with the people who you know they have a proven track record, they're the experts in that particular thing? Are you going to hire them, or are you going to take a big risk just because you want to hire a diverse individual?
At the end of the day, these are publicly traded companies. They have to make money for their shareholders and stockholders. It has to happen. And as a producer, as somebody that's going to put my money behind your project, just like I made fun of the Dark Universe from Universal, when I'm like, if I'm a producer, if I'm the money man, I'm not putting my money into a Johnny Depp, Tom Cruise backed project right now. I think they're both box office poison. I'm not going to back that play.
And you were correct.
And so that's what I look at. I'm like, who's going to make me money? Now, we can go all about all the diversification in the world, but at the end of the day, I want to line my wallet if I'm those guys. That's the only thing that matters. Make me a better, faster, stronger mousetrap. I don't care. Make me a cheaper, crappy mousetrap that makes me a lot of money. That's what I care about. And so I think that's what it comes down to, is who's making me the money. And if you can make me the money, that's fine. Right now we see some of the stars, like Michael B. Jordan. If I'm a money man right now, I'm like, money, I'm in. I think that he's an amazing actor. I think he's got all the talent in the world, and he's proven it. He's done several different things. I look at that Fantastic Four movie and I scratch my head and I go, oh man, that was pretty bad, but not because of him.
Marvel, if there's one thing they can do, it's to recycle their Human Torches.
There you go. Yeah. Human Torches have been coming up.
Yeah.
They've done all right. So it's going to be. It's an interesting time in Hollywood. We have all this stuff coming out. It was like we had the Oscars, where congratulations to Guillermo del Toro for winning Shape of Water, favorite movie of mine for the year in the Oscar hunt. I was very happy for him. I know my usual partner Harrison doesn't respect his work, but I do. I think he's an amazing director, and his visual style is just mind-blowing. And I love The Creature from the Black Lagoon. I felt this was a really nice Cold War adaptation, love story version of it. I loved it. Just thought it was a great film. So congratulations to him.
My hope is that Hollywood will, because he has for a very long time wanted to make Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness.
Sure.
But he wanted to make it rated R and a period piece. And the studio said those two combined wouldn't work. So they wouldn't fund it. My hope is now
maybe he gets
they'll
the
think,
love.
okay, well, maybe he can do it.
I would hope so. We'll see. But even during the Oscar broadcast for Best Director, I believe Emma Watson was presenting, and it's like, and here is the four gentlemen, and then she names the female director by name, and it's like, well, yes, these are four male directors, but Del Toro happens to not be Caucasian. The director behind the Kenan is what's that?
Caucasian. When I fill out a form, it says Caucasian non-Hispanics.
Really? I don't know what that means, but I mean, there was a lot of diversification. It happened to be men currently, but it wasn't just a bunch of white guys.
No, you had Jordan Peele. You had him.
Peele. Thank you. I'm thinking. So it kind of was like, pick your fights. I don't know that was the particular time to go off on that.
I mean, I get it. If you look at history, who was doing the predominant fantasy genre? Who was doing the predominant writing 50s, 60s, 70s,
Sure.
80s? White guys. So as they start turning these properties into movies and other media, white guys.
You say that, but you can go all the way back to Alexander Dumas with the Three Musketeers and several of his works. He was not a Caucasian and did all right.
The funny thing is, though, I bet you if you were to ask someone...
People think he's a white guy?
No, he's white. Are you sure about that?
No, he's not. Man in the Iron Mask, Three Musketeers. But that was a different time, different period. I think he was French. Dumas. So.
Well, just the opportunities weren't necessarily there in the past.
I agree.
So I get it why people are really pushing now, trying to make sure that those opportunities are available.
And Michael B. Jordan just did something of that nature by signing an inclusion contract with his company, Outlier Productions, where they have signed a contract. I don't know how legal binding a contract like this can be, but basically just came out and said, we are going to be very open about hiring anyone and everyone. We don't care what bits and parts are on your body. We don't care where on the map you happen to hail from. We don't care about the pigmentation of your skin. If you've got the chops, we're going to give you a shot. And that I want to see more and more and more of. And not just in all this other, but also in ageism. You know, we see a lot of older actors. Men seem to do quite well, but women,
yeah.
they have to all of a sudden take on these very maternal roles or whatever. What's that?
Unless you're Meryl Streep.
Unless you're Meryl Streep, and then you can do whatever.
That's been a long thing for, I mean, like newscasters. A female newscaster has a finite amount of time before she's declared too old, and they yank her and put in the new, young, attractive female. Whereas the male anchors stay.
I don't watch the Oscars much anymore, but I did walk through a little bit while my wife was watching. It appears to me that Meryl Streep has taken over the Jack Nicholson spot. Jack Nicholson used to be kind of the guy that you'd put somewhere in the front, and you constantly kind of flash by him. And he was like Hollywood royalty, and you hailed Jack. I haven't seen Jack in a long time, but now all of a sudden Meryl Streep every year for the last several years seems to be up front and center. It's almost like they swapped them out. Like, all right, Jack's out, Meryl's in, here we go. So
I can see that, yeah.
You know, that was just an odd thing I noticed. And more geek stuff instead of us going off and pontificating about sexism, ages, and whatnot. Shazam just got a new costume. Or we just saw a live action version of the costume. Now, who's in the costume?
The guy from...
is it Chuck?
Chuck, yeah.
All right, so...
Zachary Levi.
One of Thor's Warriors 3. I think Fandor or something like that was him. So he's going to be in the costume, not The Rock.
No.
Now, is Rock Black Adam, or is that just all done? Do we know?
No, he's supposed to be Black Adam. I don't think he's going to be in this movie. They're giving Black Adam his own
movie? All right. So what do you think? Eventually, we see the costume. From what I could see of the costume, it looks like the Shazam costume.
Yeah, if you hold up a current incarnation of the comic book costume and the photos of Zachary Levi currently, it's dead on.
Okay.
Only niggling thing I had.
Okay.
Back in the 90s when the X-Men films first came out, everybody got a black leather costume.
Yes.
And it seemed like every superhero after that for a long time, it was black leather. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a certain kind of weave that they've been using.
Yes. They almost look like ballistic weave of some sort.
The Spider-Man costumes have used it. Superman costume, it's like hexagonal little...
Yes.
I noticed that. And that they've also been getting at the little accent lines that Superman's costume has.
Okay.
So I'm niggling thing. I mean, comic book-wise, completely different origins, so why would the costumes look similar?
Why they have that same material?
The only thing I can wonder, because it's part of the DC universe, is if Billy Batson has seen Superman or read about him in the newspaper and seen photos,
emulating that
and
costume.
in his mind, when he became Shazam, the costume kind of represented that.
Okay.
But as far as the look, you can't get mad. I mean, Shazam's kind of cheesy.
Yeah. It looks odd. But the pictures I saw were not action scene shots. They were him walking around in the costume before any CG is done, before any work's done.
You got to think lighting and color correction play a big part in movies.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Henry Cavill and his Superman costume just like in a snapshot versus the way it looks in the movie, it's bright and bold in the snapshot, and Zack Snyder mutes things. So we've no idea really. I mean, odds are there's going to be CG lightning playing across him at times. So who knows?
Yeah. The actual snapshot didn't blow me away. It blew me away in the fact that it was, holy cow, that's the Shazam costume. That is what a cosplayer would have put together if they could have put together the ultimate page to reality costume. Unfortunately, the page to reality costume, much like the Arrow on CW, if you ever see those things in the real world in real light, you're like, oh, that looks silly.
Well, it's kind of like the Batman at night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it looks great.
It's imposing. In the middle of the day.
Comes out in the day, you're like, what is this guy? What in his rubber suit? What's he doing?
He shows up at Universal Studio, or I'm sorry, Batman with Six Flags at like 12 o'clock in the afternoon while you're trying to get, a cheese dog or something. You're like, huh, that don't look right. So kudos to them for doing it and making it look really good. And I look forward to seeing some shots that have been put through the system to look like what we know that they're going to end up looking like.
I have always been a Shazam fan.
Exciting.
I remember when the last Matrix movie came out, the big end battle between Agent Smith and Neo, and they were flying around, smacking each other. That was my only thought was, now we can have a Shazam, now we can have a Superman battle royale. I mean, I remember playing the Marvel role-playing game. I made Shazam.
Okay.
So I could play Shazam. So I got Mephisto trying to get me to sign my soul away as Billy Batson. Like, I don't know. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
On other news, big news in the world of RPGs, Paizo Incorporated has announced that after a decade, that Pathfinder will finally be getting an upgrade to Pathfinder 2.0. This will follow in the next year, as at Gen Con coming up in the very 1st of August, we'll have the materials for a 1-year playtest. So they will release physical copies of the books and the adventures and the things that it's going to take to play the game to the public in a playtest format, but it will be hard copy, which you can purchase and take home with you and play. They will then have surveys that will go out to take from GMs and players that will take the information that they get back in that feedback, and then they will produce the actual book. Now, I believe that this is exactly what they did previously.
Yeah, according to their video, and if you're familiar with any of Paizo's big Gen Con releases, they weren't sure how many books to make. They're going to put out, I believe it's, actually they didn't give a number.
What they're going to do with this initial release is it is going to be, I don't know about Gen Con, but for orders from stores, it's supposedly going to be one-time order only.
They did say
what you order is what you get. They're not going to reprint it because, again, it is a playtest book. Now, I believe that there will be a free PDF available. They did that before, too. But honestly, if you're a hardcore RPG guy like myself, I'm going to have a physical copy. That's important to me.
It's a 400-page physical copy.
Yeah, trying to figure all that out. I like to tab things. I suppose you can do all that virtually with a PDF, but there's just something about having the physical copy on the thing for me, on the table for me, that's a big deal. I bought the previous version when they did the playtest back 10 years ago, and I'll probably buy this one. I wasn't sure because there's so much material out there for Pathfinder now that for the first time ever, it did cross my mind to just go Amish and stay with things the way
that has actually
are.
been one of the complaints. The biggest complaint is they're saying they did not say this, but a lot of people online are claiming that when they came out with Pathfinder originally, because D&D had jumped so many times. It went from 3.0 to 3.5 in like a year.
Yeah.
And then 4th edition shortly after that. So
it was 8.
So people were buying these books, and then suddenly they're no good.
Yeah.
So for Pathfinder, they took the 3.5 with the open license and made Pathfinder, and they supposedly made the claim, you're not going to have to worry about that with us. So now, 40,000 products, and a lot of people have been... Pathfinder fills almost every bookstore, game store when it comes to the role-playing game section.
It was my game of choice, even with D&D 5th edition doing incredibly well. I played D&D 5th now, I think, with 2 different GMs, and I'm still a Pathfinder guy. It didn't sway me. It felt much better than D&D 4.0.
Oh, God.
But it still feels... When I played D&D 5.0, I felt like I was playing remedial D&D. That's how it felt to me. It's not to insult anybody who likes the game. It's just how I felt about it.
I like it, but that's one of the selling points for me. It kind of went back to the basics because I don't like... I'm not a fan of... When it comes to D&D, Pathfinder, any of those games, I'm not a fan of escalating hit points. I could do without the classes. It bugs me, the levels.
Gotcha.
But 5th edition... took away a lot of the heavy crunch, so I can focus more on telling the story, and players can focus more on playing their characters and the story, and not so much on what's my bonus. Because it seemed like with 3.5 and a little bit with Pathfinder, you get your narrative going.
Yeah.
Combat happens, and then suddenly it's like, crap, okay.
It slows way down.
Yeah.
You definitely want to have apps and stuff available to you. I was always an anti-app guy at the table, or tablets at the table. I really wanted my players to have books and dice, but even I now, if you played with me, I've got 2 or 3 different devices to make sure that when the rules pop up, we can go through it fairly quickly, find what we need, and get moving on. And that does become more difficult. And I don't think that we're going to get less crunch, because it sounds like they're getting rid of...
So they're streamlining things, so all the various actions, now it's just going to be, you're going to have 3 actions and a reaction.
Yes. So we'll see how that goes. I want to see it into how it's going to be played out. But we get the official release at Gen Con this year with 3 or 4. I know Gary Con, which is going on right this second, has got supposedly has got something going on up there. They said something about Origins, But Origins last year, they were also, or Pathfinder, Paizo was a big person there and showed up with nothing for Starfinder. So, I mean, we saw a poster.
I saw the list of conventions that they're going to have actual material for the playtest. I don't recall. I mean, Origins might have been on there.
I could have sworn Origins Game Fair was on there. But so, there you go. Well, that's what we've got time for in this week's episode. So, everybody, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for joining us on GeekStorm. I'm Sean Hilton, owner of Comics Cube. I'm joined today by my good friend Mike Dukes, and that was your Week in Geek. Be groovy. Oh, best episode ever.